This man is a three-time Super Bowl champ. Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show from Fox Sports on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is our friend Mark Schlereth back here on the program. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good, Rich, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet, brother. And it's just a great day, you know, getting this good news from the hospital in Cincinnati that Damar Hamlin's opened his eyes and is squeezing the hands of his loved ones. Exactly the sort of signal that we needed to see as he's being brought out of his sedated state. Just a sigh of relief I'm having right now, you know?
Yeah. I don't think there's any question that that is huge, and that's what we've all been hoping for and ultimately praying for, and just incredible news coming out of Cincinnati right now, which is awesome, you know. And it's interesting. You sit there, and I had an opportunity to listen to you and Kurt as I was driving home. We went to dinner with some friends of ours and watched it unfold on the TV there in the restaurant, and obviously searching for answers and searching for information, which nobody really had. But I thought you did a tremendous job as I was driving home listening to you guys. But, you know, we were all shaken up for that because we understand there's a 100% likelihood that you're going to get hurt when you play the game. We understand that. We even understand the potential of paralysis and everything else. But you don't go on the field thinking, hey, this could be the last time I'm ever, you know, I'm alive. You just don't think that way as a player. And so it was dramatic, I think, for all of us. And I think one of the things for me, as I sat and kind of contemplated what was going on, I was praying for Damar and his family. I thought to myself, you know, oftentimes we all face tragedy. There's oftentimes we all face disappointment and things that don't work out in our lives. And oftentimes we shake a hand at God and say, you know, why me? And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, why not me? And why have I been so blessed? Why have I had all these things work out for me? And so it was an opportunity for me to not only pray for that man's family, but also to recognize my own blessings and to have some intentional gratitude for the great things that have happened in my life. And anyhow, I'm just really, really happy to hear the news about Damar. And again, you know, we'll just continue to pray for him and his recovery.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. We've been talking about here for the last 24, 48 hours as we've had various guests on who have either played or loved the game. That just to you know what you just said, Mark, about knowing the dangers of playing the game and every snap could bring it, that you kind of don't think about it, and then to have it completely in front of your eyes in the most jarring manner of watching your teammate need CPR and then ambulanced off. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what the next snap of football is going to be like. What do you think the next snap of football is going to be like, Mark?
You know, I think for them ultimately, like this great news, there'll be some relief. Because there is that aspect, you know, that you get back to it. And I was on a football field in Greeley, Colorado, when we had a teammate break his neck, and the ambulance came on the field, and we were doing a goal line drill, and we just moved the drill down to the other end while our teammate was being hoisted and lifted into to an ambulance. So, like, you have that. And by the way, I was sitting there going, really? We're going to continue to practice? Really? This is what we're going to do? And yet, you know, that is kind of football. And there's a reason only 1,500 people are blessed enough athletically to play it. And you know, as I always joke around, stupid enough to play the game. It is part of your fabric of your being. It is probably all of our first loves as little boys that we grew up playing it. And so there is something special. I always quote a line from The Alarm, an 80s band that I really liked. And one of the lines in one of their songs was, it's the lifeblood that courses through my veins. And that's how I feel about football. So there is going to be a moment of kind of relief because your brother and your teammate and your friend and the guy that you have loved and spent a lot of time with looks like he's coming out the other side. And so there'll be some relief in that, and then getting back to playing the game, I think, is that, oddly enough, I think there'll be some relief in that as well.
Well, I guess it's a good thing that culturally we've evolved as a sport to have stopped the game. Right? I know there's a whole conversation as to how long it took to stop the game and who's the ones who was eventually, you know, led to stopping it. But if you're saying you were practicing when your teammate was put in an ambulance with a broken neck on the other side of the field, And even at that time, you were wondering, why are we doing it? What was that, in the late 90s? What you're talking about there, mid 90s?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, late 90s, like 97, 98. Yeah.
So I mean,
There has been that evolution, and I really, like, to me, I really don't care how long it took. And I know there's a lot of people who jump on and say it should have been canceled immediately. But you're trying, you're in the fact gathering and information finding stage. And bottom line for me is the right decision was made. Like, I know it maybe not have been on the timeline that some people like, but the bottom line, it was made. And that hasn't always been the case when it comes to the National Football League and the way we love the game. So we have made some progress in that regard to understanding the humanity of the game that we play.
Mark Schlereth, Fox Sports NFL analyst, three-time Super Bowl champion, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what do you think the league should do? What's your 2 cents on that subject matter about making up this game, or not at all? There's so many different conversations on the table, and it looks like 48 hours to come up with the answer right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I would be shocked if they play that game. And I don't know what the total answer is, other than, call it a tie. However that works into the mathematical equation as far as win percentage is concerned, and then figure it out. I just don't think that game is going to be played. I don't expect it to be played, and I don't even want it to be played. I think we move on and we figure it out and we do the best we can. And understanding that, some fan base is going to be a little bit upset, but get over it. Life ain't fair, and we move on. And that's just kind of how I think the league will handle it. Now, there may be some twists and turns as far as who gets home field advantage, who doesn't. Like, maybe there's some type of, I think Matt Hasselbeck proposed something of, that was pretty interesting about, you get to choose whether you want the bye or you want home field advantage. If it turns out to be a tie, whatever, that it is what it is. I think they'll just figure it out. And one thing, we've become fairly nimble as a league, I think, over the last couple of years under COVID. 2 years ago, we played every day of the week. So I think they have become fairly nimble that way, and they're just going to do the best they can and understand that extenuating circumstances and kind of desperate times, desperate measures.
I'll pull on that thread a little bit that you just left out there. Why don't you want it to be played? I can guess, but I'll give you the floor on that. Why don't you say, I don't even want it to be played? Why?
Yeah. Well, I just it's such a, to me, what happened there is so traumatic, I think, for everybody involved. And not only the players, but the coaches and the support staff, the men and women that make an NFL Sunday and NFL Monday night go round. I just think that there was such an emotional outlet during that time and during that game. And I don't want to drudge up for any of those people involved. And, frankly, for all of us who watched it, I just don't want to drudge that up. I'd rather move on. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Mark Schlereth here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so then let's move on to the rest of the league a little bit here. The best team that you've seen. I think I ask you this every single time, but you see so many teams, so I'll ask you again. Which has been the best team that you've seen so far in the 2022 season, Mark?
The best team that I've got a chance to call was the Philadelphia Eagles, because I look at them, especially on the offensive side of the ball, the mastery of the running game, and they can beat you any way you want to be beaten. If you want us to play smash mouth with you, we can beat you playing smash mouth. If you want us to, orchestrate some gap, pin and pull schemes and get to the edge and capture the perimeter, we can do that in the run game. We can do it with our running back. We can do it with our quarterback. Oh, you're going to stack, 15 guys in the box? We'll throw it over the top of your head. We don't care. And when Jalen Hurts is right, and hopefully he's back and he's going to be right, they're a pretty damn good team. The other team I would tell you is the 49ers. Just physically, it's so interesting, Rich, because what they're doing with, a third, not a second-string quarterback, but a third-string quarterback who's a rookie and Mr. Irrelevant, is pretty incredible. And that kid, you got to give him a ton of credit because he's got a great aptitude for the game. But physically, they will literally whip your ass on the line of scrimmage, on both lines of scrimmage, and they'll make no bones about it. And, it's so funny as we morph into, hey, it's a new league and it's a new this and it's new that. About 60% of the teams that play this game are using the Mike Shanahan kind of West Coast offense that we ran in the 90s. Now there have been some adjustments and some things of that nature to it. And then you add the quarterback run that wasn't prominent in the 90s and the early 2000s. But that's all morphed out of that. But the bottom line to me is we all get enamored with quarterback play, as we should. It's incredible. And with wide receivers and tight ends and the passing game and all this stuff. But I tell you, when push comes to shove, there is one thing that will never change about football, and that is the team that can dominate both lines of scrimmage is going to win the majority of the games. And you look at Philly, you look at San Francisco, that's what they do, especially for San Francisco on the defensive side. They are legit, they are deep, they rotate, and all their guys can play. Before we return to the Eagles, though, Nick Bosa is the Defensive Player of the Year. Wouldn't you agree? Yes? Yay? Nay? Yeah, he's pretty special. He's pretty unblockable, and he called game in Vegas when he just threw the left tackle right into the lap of Jarrett Stidham, caused the interception in overtime. Yeah. I mean, he did that. He is that way. And the other thing is he's up and down like the great ones, like Reggie White, like J.J. Watt, who announced his retirement. I've never seen J.J. Watt's equal, and I played against Reggie White. When it comes to moving up and down the line of scrimmage and equally dispensing justice regardless who he's over. Most guys have a favorite side. They're better at the left defensive end than they are the right defensive end, or the left defensive tackle they are the right defensive tackle. He'll line up on anybody, and he's equally as good, ambidextrous when it comes to pass rushing. So I've never seen his equal. And Nick Bosa has some of that in him as well, up and down the line of scrimmage, figuring out where the best matchup is. My guys have enjoyed your use of dispensing justice. Equally dispensing justice might be our fantasy football team. That could be a good fantasy football team. It's really nice. Or a great album, album name, Equally Dispensing Justice. That was Metallica for sure. Yeah. What do you think, Mark? What do you think? You're providing us. I love it. Lots of material here. And then about the Eagles, I'm concerned about Lane Johnson being down, the groin injury. I don't know when he's coming back, but they're different. It affects everything, right? The run game, the protection, everything for them. That guy. Yeah. Especially, it's so funny because back in my time, this is one of the ways the kind of the quote unquote evolution of football. Right. So back in my day, the right tackle was this, it was the John Runyon types, right? Just come off the ball and beat you up and, physically have a street fight. The left tackle had to be the athletic or nimble guy. Mm-hmm. And then with the evolution of the open formation where the tight ends no longer lined up on the end of the line of scrimmage, now we open everything up. Now both tackles have got to be supremely gifted athletes. And Lane Johnson's one of not only the best players, but one of the best athletes in football. And yet you're 100% right. With that guy being down, it completely affects what you're doing. So most of the time for the Eagles, if there's a weak side of the line of scrimmage, it's probably with Mailata and Dickerson, although Dickerson's a Pro Bowl player. He's great, don't get me wrong, but they're going to turn protection toward that left tackle, and they're going to leave Lane Johnson on an island. You can't do that right now. So all of a sudden, one guy being gone, one guy being down, opens up two edges. And that's a difficulty. Mark Schlereth, a few more minutes left with the Fox Sports analyst, three-time Super Bowl champion here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before I let you go, let's talk Broncos. How concerned are you that whatever's going on there is not fixable based on whatever's going on between Russell Wilson and the offensive line? I saw, obviously, what happened Christmas Day, and it was heartening to see them rebound with Jerry Rossberg after firing Nathaniel Hackett and performing as well as they did in Kansas City. But how concerned are you that this is not fixable for a new coach? I'm not concerned that it's not fixable. I think it's fixable. I think Russell is quote unquote fixable. When I hear people say, well, he's not the athlete he once was and this, that, and that. He's still plenty athletic enough to threaten the edge, to run the football. You saw that last week in Kansas City. He can do all those things. I think the big issue is you have got to go back and understand that you have got to create a system that minimizes the impact that your quarterback has, and you just paid him $250 million or whatever it was, right? So you've got to be able to say, hey, man, very much like San Francisco, we're going to run the ball. We're going to set up our play action stuff. We're going to be our run action is going to look, or our run game is going to marry to that play action game, and our play action game is going to, impact and create easy one-on-one throws and those things. I think it's really, what Pete Carroll did for 10 years in Seattle. And, the whole, hey, let Russ cook mantra, came from, hey, man, I want to be, that guy that operates from the pocket, and I want to be, the Drew Brees or the Tom Brady. And I think that narrative permeated Seattle and permeated the national kind of narrative for a while. And ultimately, I think, Pete Carroll was protecting Russell Wilson, saying, hey, there's certain skill sets that we don't think you have, and this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way we're going to, protect ourselves as an offense. And I think you're going to, if a coach comes in here and has the authority to go back to that, then I think Russell will be fine ultimately. But you got to be able to look at yourself very critically and saying, okay, you know what, I wanted this, but I'm not that yet, or I'm not that now. And I've got to go back to winning football games.
In the 90 seconds I have left with you, is Harbaugh fit? Because that's the rumor. My guy, you're going to come get my guy from Michigan and offer him a ton of money to fix this thing. Yeah, you think he's a fit?
I think Harbaugh's a fit anywhere. I think one thing about Jim Harbaugh is everywhere he's ever been, and I've talked to several people about this, Brock Hewer and a couple other guys that I know well that know Jim Harbaugh well. Everywhere he's ever been, he's built a bully. He has built a team from the inside out that has a fullback and has a tight end that can put, the Y tight end that can put his hand on the dirt and be on the end of the line of scrimmage and block people. And that's what Jim Harbaugh is. And I think that's exactly what Russell Wilson needs. I think it's that type of offense. So ultimately, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh wants to leave Michigan or not. My gut would say he doesn't, but I have no idea. It's just the way I feel about professional football versus college football, and I feel like he's at home. He's a Michigan guy, just like you.
Thanks, brother. Happy New Year. Thanks for the time. Thanks for your kind words about listening on Westwood One on Monday night. You're the man. Happy New Year.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year, buddy.
You got it. That's Mark Schlereth, 3-time Super Bowl champion here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.